Welcome to Global Byte. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. Today, the Supreme Court delivered a seismic shock to the global order, overturning President Trump's sweeping tariffs in a decision that will echo through history. The ruling, announced in a packed courtroom and broadcast instantly around the world, has sent shockwaves not only through financial markets, but also through the very foundations of international trade and diplomacy. In a landmark opinion, the justices declared Trump's use of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEPA, an unconstitutional overreach, setting a precedent that limits the executive branch's authority to unilaterally impose tariffs under the guise of national emergency. The ruling sent markets into a frenzy, with stocks plunging and traders scrambling to reassess their positions. The America First doctrine, which has shaped U.S. trade policy for years, was suddenly upended, forcing investors and policymakers alike to confront a new reality. The decision redefines presidential power over trade, signaling a dramatic shift in how the United States engages with the global economy. For years, businesses and consumers have been caught in the crossfire of unpredictable tariffs, facing rising costs, supply chain disruptions, and economic uncertainty. Many factories shuttered their doors, while families struggled with higher prices at the checkout. The global economy has felt the strain, with growth stifled and international partnerships tested. Now the court has drawn a clear line in the sand, telling the White House its power is not limitless. This decision reaffirms the checks and balances at the heart of American democracy, reminding the executive branch that it must operate within the boundaries set by the Constitution and Congress. The implications are profound, not just for Trump, but for every future president. The ruling will shape how future administrations approach trade, emergencies, and the use of executive power. Policy analysts are already debating how this precedent will influence the balance between national security and economic policy for decades to come. Small businesses who challenged the tariffs are celebrating a hard-fought victory for the rule of law. For many, this is more than just a legal win. It's a lifeline, offering hope for stability and fairness in a system that often feels stacked against the little guy. International leaders too are watching closely, hoping for a return to predictable rules-based trade. The decision is being hailed in capitals from Brussels to Beijing as a step toward restoring trust and cooperation in the global trading system. Inside the White House, officials are regrouping, vowing to find new ways to pursue their agenda despite the setback. The administration faces tough questions about how to advance its economic goals within the new legal framework, and how to reassure both domestic and international partners. The aftershocks of this judicial earthquake will be felt for years to come, rippling from grocery store prices to the halls of global summits. As the world watches, the United States stands at a crossroads, its next steps poised to shape the future of international trade and the balance of power for a generation. To grasp today's ruling, we must revisit the Trump tariffs evolution. Trump's second term saw tariffs become a blunt tool for global leverage, justified by invoking the IEPA as a response to a so-called economic emergency. Critics argued this was a distortion of the law, bypassing established checks and balances. Tariff threats, sometimes announced on social media, created global market whiplash, targeting everyone from Brazil to France to Canada. The tipping point came when Trump threatened a 100% tariff on Canadian goods after Canada signed a trade deal with China, galvanizing small businesses to challenge the administration in court. Their legal fight would ultimately reach the Supreme Court. The legal battle began with American importers and small businesses arguing that Trump's use of the IEPA for tariffs was unconstitutional. They claimed the law was meant for true emergencies, not for reshaping trade policy. The administration countered that global economic threats justified broad executive action. Lower courts were split, reflecting deep questions about presidential power. The Supreme Court agreed to hear the case, probing whether any president could declare a trade imbalance an emergency. Justices expressed skepticism about unlimited executive authority. Prediction markets favored a ruling against the administration. The stage was set for a constitutional showdown. The Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that Trump's use of the IEPA for broad tariffs was unconstitutional. The majority opinion reaffirmed Congress's exclusive power over trade and taxation. The court distinguished between targeted sanctions and sweeping trade policy, restoring traditional checks and balances. Dissenting justices warned the decision would weaken the president's hand on the world stage. Congressional critics of the tariffs hailed the ruling as a victory for constitutional order. The White House called it a dangerous decision and vowed to seek alternative legal strategies. The political divide deepened, with both sides preparing for the next battle. The ruling redefines the boundaries of executive power in Washington. The Supreme Court's decision sent shockwaves through the financial world, triggering instant chaos on global markets. Within minutes, newsrooms buzzed with urgent updates, and traders scrambled to make sense of the rapidly changing landscape. The uncertainty was palpable, as investors tried to gauge the long-term impact of this historic ruling. Automated trading algorithms kicked in, dumping shares of companies heavily exposed to international trade. Panic selling swept through the markets, sending the Dow Jones Industrial Average into a steep plunge. The speed and scale of the sell-off left even seasoned brokers stunned, as billions of dollars in value evaporated in a matter of hours. But as the initial panic subsided and the dust began to settle, a new perspective emerged. Investors started to see opportunity where there had been only fear. The end of tariffs, many realized, could open the door to renewed corporate growth, increased global trade, and a possible easing of inflationary pressures that had weighed on the economy for months. Stocks of global manufacturers, which had been battered by trade uncertainty, rebounded sharply. The Dow clawed back most of its earlier losses as optimism returned to the trading floor and investors rushed to buy back into the market. Meanwhile, commodities like gold and silver, long considered safe havens during times of tariff uncertainty, fell in value as risk appetite returned. Traders shifted their focus away from defensive assets, betting instead on a brighter economic outlook. The US dollar strengthened noticeably, reflecting renewed confidence in the resilience of the American economy. Currency traders saw the decision as a turning point, with the dollar gaining ground against major global currencies. Yet, not everyone was convinced the worst was over. Futures markets signaled caution, with traders bracing for the administration's next move and the possibility of further policy surprises. Overseas, European and Asian markets closed lower, reflecting deep-seated wariness that trade tensions might persist or even escalate again. International investors remained on edge, watching for any sign of renewed conflict. Around the world, all eyes are on Washington. Is this a true ceasefire in the trade war, or merely a temporary pause before the next round of hostilities? The global financial community is holding its breath, waiting for clarity. Investors are cautiously betting on a new era of stability and growth, but uncertainty still lingers in every conversation. The mood is one of hope mixed with anxiety, as no one can predict what comes next. One thing is clear: the economic fallout from this decision is just beginning to unfold, and the world will be watching every step of the way. The Supreme Court's decision will ripple from world capitals to your kitchen table. For allies, it's a relief. Tariff threats had made diplomacy and planning nearly impossible. Multinational companies are recalculating forecasts as supply chains adjust and costs drop. Consumers could see lower prices on everything from appliances to solar panels as tariffs unwind. The green transition may accelerate, with cheaper solar technology and lower energy bills. But for workers in protected industries like steel and aluminum, the future is uncertain. The debate over free trade versus protectionism will intensify as the country weighs lower prices against job security. The ruling forces a reckoning on who wins and who loses in the global economy. Business and policy leaders agree. The ruling removes uncertainty, but challenges remain. JP Morgan's Jamie Dimon says tariffs rarely work, but can be justified for true security threats, a view echoed by the court. Market strategists see potential for strong growth if political fallout is contained. Some industries fear exposure to foreign competition and job losses, finding support in the White House's protectionist stance. The administration may now turn to more cumbersome trade laws, setting up new legal battles. The ruling reignites debate over how best to foster American innovation and competitiveness. Elon Musk argues tariffs hurt emerging industries, especially clean energy. The decision highlights the trade-offs: protecting one sector can harm another. America must now decide which industries to support and how. Beyond economics, the Supreme Court's decision is a political earthquake. It checks presidential power, reasserting Congress's constitutional role in trade. Bipartisan alliances are forming to reclaim authority from the executive branch. Expect a wave of legislation to reform the IEEPA and add congressional oversight. For Trump, it's a major setback. His signature policy tool has been declared illegal. The White House's defiance signals a coming political fight, energizing Trump's base. Internationally, allies may feel emboldened, While diplomacy could become more complex as Congress reasserts itself, foreign nations must now navigate both the White House and Congress. The balance of power in Washington and the world has shifted. This Supreme Court decision marks a pivotal moment for America's economy, its government, and the daily lives of its people. The ruling doesn't just affect policy, it shapes the very foundation of how power is exercised and checked in our democracy. It's a reminder that the highest court in the land can alter the course of history, and that its decisions ripple outward, touching every corner of society. By reaffirming that the United States is a nation governed by laws, not by the will of a single leader or branch, the court reinforces the principle that no one is above the Constitution. This decision underscores the importance of legal frameworks and the careful balance of power that has defined American governance for centuries. For businesses and consumers, the effects could be far-reaching. Lower prices and more stable supply chains may become possible as new rules are debated and implemented. Companies might find it easier to plan for the future, and families could see relief at the checkout line. But these benefits will depend on how lawmakers respond and how quickly new policies are put in place. Yet, for workers in certain industries, especially those vulnerable to global competition, uncertainty grows, jobs may shift, and some communities could face difficult transitions. The ruling brings hope for some, but anxiety for others, highlighting the need for thoughtful support and retraining programs. The debate now moves from the Oval Office to Congress, demanding a more nuanced and transparent discussion about America's competitiveness and the support needed for those displaced by global change. Lawmakers must now grapple with complex questions, balancing economic growth with fairness and opportunity for all. This ruling is more than a legal decision. It's a civics lesson in the enduring value of checks and balances, and the power of an independent judiciary to safeguard our freedoms. It reminds us that the rule of law is not just an abstract idea, but a living principle that protects our rights. Now, Congress must step up to clarify trade laws and reclaim its constitutional authority. The responsibility to shape the nation's future no longer rests with a single office, but with the representatives elected by the people. As citizens, we must stay engaged in this crucial debate. Our voices, our votes, and our participation are essential to ensure that the changes ahead reflect the will and needs of the people. The question before us is profound. Are we a nation ruled by the decisions of one, or by a constitutional framework built on deliberation, compromise, and shared responsibility? The next chapter of America's story depends not only on our leaders, but on each of us, on our willingness to engage, to question, and to work together for a stronger, more just future.